That's right. You're watching another take on Battlefront 2 and the loot boxes. Will we say something terrible about EA? Probably. Will we call gamers little crybabies? Maybe. I'm joined this week by the real perpetrators of this hate, Callie, Zach, and Tori. A couple of faces you might not have seen before. Usually when we get into this stuff, we just get started right away. You know, big ideas. You don't need to know these faces. It's all about the work. I don't believe that anymore. I think it's about appreciating the minds behind it. So let's start with the guy with glasses. What's up, Zach?
How's it going, man?
Good. What are you about? I don't understand small talk. I'm working
how is your weather?
What's the last game you played, man?
The game of life, and I'm losing.
Ooh.
Oh,
2 kids, 1 pink.
Oh yeah. No. Assassin's Creed. Still, I'm just taking my sweet time, looking at everyone else's photos they take in that game because it just clogs the map.
Yeah.
So got to do it, and just helping digital Egyptians find their things.
How many hours do you think you're in it so far?
So far probably like 30-ish. But I'm not.
You're not jumping with the story though.
The story I've done like 4 missions. Yeah.
So what other 30-hour gaming endeavor have y'all two been doing?
I've been playing Severed. I kind of missed out on it on the 3DS, and then when it moved to mobile, I was kind of like, But
what's Severed? I'm trying to remember. I feel like it's an indie, right?
Yeah, it's an indie game. I love my indie games. It's by the guys that did Guacamelee.
Oh, okay, cool.
You play as Sasha, and she's a warrior, and you go through like a maze, except you fight things, and you swipe and slash.
It's a maze where you fight things.
I made it sound really bad. It's
it
phenomenal.
Sounds great.
It's very good.
Yeah. What about you, Tori? It's. I was gonna come to you. It was very expected that you were. Sorry, you're next. What are you playing?
Zoombeanies.
Zoombeanies?
Yeah.
What in God's green earth?
Zoombeanies.
How do I get in my life?
I'm living in nostalgia when and wherever I can this month.
Tie-in, segue.
It's it's a PC game that started out with like Windows 98, I think.
Oh, no.
Good Lord.
And they made it accessible for the cell phone for $2.99.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
sweet.
I've every once in a while I just find myself going right back to that.
What's the one sentence review of what is it? Zoom babies?
Zoombeanies.
Zoombeanie. Well, of course. How could I have mistaken it?
Good God.
Yeah. Zoom Babies is about Hitler. No, so what's
my mind is picturing what a game like Zoom Babies would entail, and
what do you
it cannot be matched by reality.
What do you see in your mind's eye?
I see babies zooming through sewers like fighting monsters.
Is that close? Is that close?
No.
No?
Nay, sir.
Nay.
I say nay. It would be very similar to Lemmings, actually.
Oh, okay. All right. So one of those bad games. So I've been, careful. I've been playing, jealous much. We're recording this on Wednesday, and I've been playing Battlefront 2. That reaction is a good one.
Oh, boy.
I just had to scratch my eye.
Any questions about it? Any feelings? Any thoughts?
Is it fun to play?
It is. For you and your friends.
How much money?
Yeah, did you spend?
I have not
already
spent any money on the predatory poisonous loot boxes that are destroying the video.
So you basically have nothing then.
So I basically have nothing. I'm also really bad at multiplayer games, so it's like it's throwing good money after bad. It's just
yeah, you can't buy your way out of this hole.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's no pay to win for Andy Borkowski. Put it that way. It's just I'll gamble it away. But I'm really enjoying the single player story a lot.
Really?
And yeah, it's nostalgia ridden, but it's like most Star Wars products, pretty competently made, if made for children that really can't deal with some complex issues.
But it's short, right?
It's short. It's under 6 hours. You kind of take your sweet time with it, but it has a lot of production value. It is a beautiful, beautiful product. The vistas and the set pieces that you're in are just incredible. I just wish they spent more time looking at that as opposed to like, hey, look, here's Han Solo. He's looking a little bit older.
Yeah.
Huh?
It's Blade Runner 2049 Harrison Ford.
A little bit, yeah. Get ready. Ryan Gosling's around the corner. No. But it's a lot of fun. Playing in multiplayer, though, has been interesting just because of all the turmoil that's associated with it currently. This is pre-release, so the only people that
Are
have
there
EA
people
access.
playing as stormtroopers like kneeling in protest in the multiplayer? Yeah.
No, unfortunately, that is not happening.
I will not kill.
There's just moments where you will get completely destroyed by someone that like you can see when you play these games. You guys remember, you see like their player cards and the sort of stuff they have. So I'll just be
Gilded in
playing.
rainbow colors.
Well, a little bit, yeah. It's like, oh wow, you're Lando Calrissian. That's cool.
So it's literally
How'd that happen?
the bourgeoisie gunning down the proletariat. I have money and like hopping away. Yeah.
From my experience, they would still be gunning me down even if roles were reversed. So there's still some competitive action to it. But yeah, absolutely. Even right away, you're going to be seeing a lot of people that are very high advanced levels that have a lot of gear, whether they did that through the more traditional means of gaining credits or spent that sweet dollar bills on
Played
crystals.
800 hours in 4 days.
Yeah, maybe they did that. It's possible. But if you guys are coming into the game a couple weeks later, you can expect to see a couple of Landos just janking your ass.
I'm just gonna wait, like I said, like 2 weeks when it's $15.
So
buy it.
we've looked at this frontwards and back. I think everyone that's played a video game has had something to say. Our cameraman, wanted to kill a developer. I think that's what I said. No, he's shaking his
Which
head.
one?
But at its core, the business practices that are really at place here for Battlefront 2, EA, and DICE, what they're bringing to the video game market is important. This is a video game that has captured the industry's attention, the culture's attention, and could be indicative of things to come. We here at Dialogue Wheel, we're about to spin the Wheel of Dialogue. It's, of course, the show where art and business and kind of culture collide, and we try to deal with a very complex issue that takes a lot of minds thinking and put it into one simple thesis, because we're douches like that. And this week, that thesis is pretty simple, that Battlefront 2 is predatory, and it's our fault.
Nope.
Oh,
No, sir.
we have one side, one person, Tori, on the other side of that argument. To give you a little bit of background, when I say predatory, Zach, what am I talking? It's not chasing kids at night. It's not trying to kill Schwarzenegger. What do I mean by predatory?
Just exploiting people's willingness to spend $1.
Mm-hmm.
So basically giving you hollow purchases. Like you're forced to spend money on things that should be part of the game itself. So you're kind of paying for things that should already be part of the experience of purchasing.
Also just feeding off of things that they know people want.
Yeah, taking advantage. And when I say it's our fault, we're going to get into that in a little bit. But I believe that has a lot to do with what we've accepted in the video game industry and the fact that we want games to be fun more than anything else. And I think that's really hurting what this medium can provide and really like being taken advantage of by multimillionaires. And there's nothing worse than a multimillionaire taking advantage of you.
To get more millions.
Come on. At least let a poor person take advantage of me. All right. But in terms of what the entire Battlefront 2 issue is, just a quick summary. Basically, in the online multiplayer mode in Battlefront, you can get random loot from boxes. There are two different types of currency to get those boxes. There's, of course, the credits that you earn from playing in the game, completing the single-player story, and just getting certain achievements. And then there's something called crystals. Crystals in the game are the translation for IRL dollars. So if you spend $50, you get a certain amount of crystals.
And there's like 3 forms of currency.
Crystals are real money.
Yeah. The credits weren't money, which is kind of weird.
Yeah, reverse that.
Why didn't you earn crystals? Seems counterintuitive. But basically, very early on, EA and the people at DICE said after the beta that we're going to change things. The game won't just be pay to win. And they claim they did that in a lot of different ways. The reason why people are saying it's pay to win, a lot of the great stuff that you identify with Star Wars, Emperor Palpatine, the Millennium Falcon, for instance, motherfucking Darth Vader.
Is the most important part.
Kind of, it's very the things that are signifiers. So that if you
all the most fascist parts of Star Wars are the things we want.
A little bit, yeah. Well, Lando Calrissian too, the sexiest man in the galaxy. That stuff can be earned or purchased. It's not something that's readily available when you play the multiplayer experiences. And for those of us that have played multiplayer Battlefront, those are the moments that are the most exciting. When you're able to play as Lando or Yoda or get those opportunities to really change the battlefield a little bit. It has to do with how the game is played. So EA and DICE early on said, we're going to solve this when you get these sort of loot boxes, there's only going to be the opportunity to get 3 different types of unlockables. In the game, there's 4 unlockables. Very common. There's, of course, common, uncommon, rare, and epic. It's what you see in video games. And they said, all right, these loot boxes that you spend your money on, you can only get the common, uncommon, and rare. So those big epic titles, the things that allow you to get Darth Vader, will tie that directly to completion and you won't have to pay to win. But then they added the feature of being able to take those commons, uncommons, and rares and essentially bring them to the Poke Center, kill them so that you can use that kind of currency to keep buying new things. This has led to some industrious gamers essentially spending, I think it was $90 at one point, and getting all the epic loot through the recycling and kind of euthanizing of all the things they didn't want to get this pay to win. So
euthanize my gamer crates.
A little bit, yeah. And from that response, after some gamers got a taste of that, the world kind of exploded. Tori, what exactly am I talking about here? Yeah. So the EA announced this, and there's a bit of a reaction, right?
Yeah. The intent is to provide players with a sense of pride and accomplishment for unlocking different heroes.
Oh boy.
As for cost, we selected initial values based upon data from the open beta and other adjustments made to milestone rewards before lunch. Don't shake me here.
Oh, continue. Excuse me.
Among other things, we're looking at average per-player credit earn rates on a daily basis, and we'll be making constant adjustments to ensure that players have challenges that are compelling, rewarding, and of course attainable via gameplay. So that should be via.
Oh, Palpatine.
We appreciate the candid.
You got it. You got it. Keep going.
I'd just like to point out candid. And the passion the community has put forth around the current topics here on Reddit, our forums, and across numerous social media outlets. Our team will continue to make changes and monitor community feedback and update everyone as soon and as often as we can. I'd just like to note that there are currently, or since my last copy and paste, 679,000 downvotes to this on Reddit.
So the most, this is the community that has outed like pedophiles, that has hosted AMAs with tyrants around the world. And the most hated thing that's ever been said was from an EA employee about a video game.
You know what this sounds like? It's like the poor dude who's calling you and you're like, hey, it's Jim from Rogers, and his name's not Jim, and he just has to eat your shit because you're so upset about the crappy service you get from some big conglomerate. That's what this is. We appreciate the Reddit feedback, said no one ever.
So imagine all the
one
voices.
ever.
Yeah.
No one.
It was the most downvoted, and it caused kind of the whole video game community to go into a bit of an uproar, right?
A huge uproar.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it was kind of not the best idea to go to Reddit in the first place.
Yes, true
Come
enough.
on,
True
like
enough.
the one place where you are guaranteed hate with a smile.
Well, they took this
the motto, yeah.
Reddit, guaranteed as well. So they took this predatory environment, and they decided, let's go back to Reddit. Right, so that actually happened today at times of this recording. That an EA.
Let's look under the old log and see what was there. Yeah.
So this is early on. Again, something terrible and insidious might have happened since then. But were they able to rectify this situation at all from the AMA today?
It was just a bunch of stonewalling.
Yeah.
From what I saw, anyways, it was a lot of PC answers and a lot of thanks for your time. We appreciate you. And we'll fix it later.
And suggesting that like the problem isn't there, and according to our numbers and our math, that you don't actually, these numbers are incorrect. Someone said that they did the math that it will take 6 months of your life to open everything needed.
Or $2,100.
Yes, $2,100 just based on the RNG of what this could be. And the EA reps kind of said, no, we had some different numbers. Don't worry. We're trying to work on this together. So that's...
that math was wrong.
Yes.
The person who found that had an Excel sheet. Like,
he's
unless
legit.
you're saying, I don't know, I trust someone with an Excel sheet, largely because Excel will tell me if I've fucked something up on the calculations.
It'll say you fucked this up.
God.
I think we swore.
So that's the EAA side of this. They're trying to control the story. Fanny, I know you've dived into this a little bit. Some people, some gamers, are kind of losing their minds, just a little bit.
Yeah.
So what has been kind of the cultural response to EA's?
Anything that happens when a game which is seen as a product you're paying for isn't living up to the standards you have for it, especially with a treasured property like Star Wars, where we all are like, my childhood and my identity is the type of the Millennium Falcon. So it's just so when that gets messed up, people obviously just lose their minds, and you get a kind of like social animus that you don't get for like
talking about
Darfur.
death threats too.
Yeah.
So that's the one thing.
Death threats, and like you don't see this kind of, you don't see people mobilize for any other cause in quite the same way. And it's just because gamers tend to be young. We are just at the behest of a system that is just crushing us day in and day out. And one of the few things we can buy with our fucking measly earned dollars, are games and movies and whatnot. Things that make us forget that
it's an investment too.
Yeah,
for
that
a
we're in
lot
a
of
shitty
games.
hellscape. Yeah. And so when that messes up, it just breaks our brain, because it's like with the Szechuan sauce protests at McDonald's. Like I have to work 2 jobs to be able to buy $100 game and to afford 80,000 loot crates, and I can't even have Darth Vader. Like that's just the final straw that breaks your mind, understandably so. Yeah.
So there is some sympathy for that sort of player that's affecting that.
Like we wait for a long time for Star Wars games, and this is a big studio that has a lot of ability to invest resources to make something worth playing, and they keep messing it up. Battlefield 1 met the same kind of problems, right? People weren't happy with it. It seemed really hollow, and we're getting the same thing here, where you can't get access to a good portion of the game that you would assume you could.
So for a lot of gamers, this is understandable, this sort of rage, this sort of feeling of loss. But early on, we said that this is a predatory system. And I really, truly do believe that the reason it's been able to get this poisonous is because of gamers like me and you. When I say predatory, it's like Zach said earlier, it's a system that EA has put in place that is designed to ensure they make the most amount of money minute to minute that they possibly can. And we would say at the expense of the overall product.
It's exploiting what people want. They're like, oh, we know you want this. Well, we'll charge you for it, because they can.
Just minute to minute too. And that was, we accepted that when we spent $90 now for a video game that'll maybe give us 6 hours of enjoyment, because maybe it was Wolfenstein and it had these great characters that we remembered. This new take and new change, though, as we've found out, seems to be a step too far for a lot of gamers, because we feel like our feelings of nostalgia and respect and maybe even trust of what this corporate entity is giving us has been betrayed in some sort of way. So these predatory practices, as we've talked about in other videos, are not just singular to EA, but it seems like EA is doing the worst job of controlling the messaging.
It's like, I was exploited by being told I could take loans against my house, and then we have the housing crash, right? Yeah. Like it's just like I go and try to buy anything, and it just costs more than I can afford, right? My rent is half of my fucking income, and now in games and in pieces of art that we enjoy, it's now not only do I have to spend almost $100 on the game, which is a lot for a piece of entertainment that gives you 6 hours of narrative, but I have to now spend additional money to unlock things in the game. It's just like that's what exploitation and predatory quality is. Just because sucking every dollar that they can get away from us.
We've had other games that could say, spend more money and you can get more. But this has taken that and saying, we won't give you the full experience unless you are continued to be nickeled and dimed. Yeah. If you remember back in Mass Effect 3, as an example with EA, they found out that the Javik DLC, if anyone recalls, that's a central character to the entire story. Like, if you don't have him in the game, Mass Effect 3 doesn't really make a lot of sense. And it was a day one DLC. You had to spend more money to get. Someone found out very simply, all of that content was on the disc. They just needed one little code to activate it. So it was very much, partitioning what your products are.
It's taking advantage of gamer investment, because if you spend that money and you have a property that people love, like, you're not going to spend extra $5 to $10 to possibly get Darth Vader or to get an essential character in the game. But they know that it's a foregone conclusion, and so that's what makes it like really just kind of sickening
and predatory. That the idea that this is so predatory against us. Now, we've all experienced this in games before, and it's made us feel certain ways. Do you guys have any moments where you felt this action, this sort of business practice happening to you?
Like in games, or
no, not just in life, because this happens every time you go to the bank. But
I realize I can't buy land ever.
The idea that this is hurting even now your gameplay experience. Well, I'll think of it right now. Even Shadow of Mordor, a game that I thought was very inventive and had something to say. You'd work really hard to build and create your orcs, which is kind of the main focus and what the game was trying to do with a cool mechanic, and would always remind you, just in the corner, hey, spend a couple bucks. There's a good chance you could get those good fireworks.
That I think is, I spend that.
I spend $90 on this.
Meal.
Why not just another $3? Andy does not need another Big Mac.
I had that in Assassin's Creed Origins. I try to do the hunting and upgrade all my equipment and whatnot by getting raw resources. And then I saw in the store you can buy like a resource pack, and I'm like, and like it has been said before on the show, like that shows you that your game is broken. If doing those things of like acquiring those objectives in a game isn't naturally fun, you don't have an inclination to do them, the game's not working. So it's kind of a Band-Aid patch over a crappy mechanic.
It doesn't always have to be fun, but it needs to just work, right? Like there's a lot of times
engaging. Like I think of like Red Dead, when like I actually just spent hours just hunting because it was naturally fun to be in that environment. And even Assassin's Creed Origins isn't like terrible. Like it is fun to do that, but it feels really cheap. Like that accomplishment feels so hollow. Like imagine playing Bloodborne or whatever, one of those crazy games, and spending an hour.
One of those crazy games
that I can't touch. Yeah, that you spend 2 hours fighting a boss, and then you figure out after that, actually, if I paid $8, I could have bypassed this boss.
Yeah, or maybe not even that directly, but you get double health or something during that one fight.
Why have a game? Like why have a game at all? Yeah.
It's almost like, remember video games used to have cheats. Like that used to be the things that you did.
Cheats were free. Bring it back.
Oh yeah. Well,
CCC.net. Yeah.
well, Zach, you and I talk about this too long. What about the rest of the team? Have you had this experience in games, and like either positive or negatively? I know, Callie, you've had some actually positive experiences with the idea of microtransactions.
Well, microtransactions started as there's the DLC aspect of like indie games and how they started bringing in extra story and stuff by having DLC, and it was worth it because you're paying, a few extra bucks and you're getting more. And how Korean model of gaming, where you have a free-to-play game like MapleStory, and you're spending money in it just to get, like cute clothes and stuff, and it doesn't affect the gameplay at all. It just helps fund the game that is free-to-play. Yeah. But, you're helping them keep going and adding more expansions and stuff. But of course, like anytime they've done it, not infectiously is
predatory.
Predatory.
Is the word we're looking for.
Yeah. Anytime they do it badly, it's always pay to win, right? Anytime, even with Battlefront, it's pay to win because you can buy the things, dismantle them, and get all the good stuff and be better than everyone else. When it works, it's generally cosmetic. So like League of Legends, you're buying skins and
it's just so those are examples in your mind where this stuff kind of worked. I think we do agree that EA's business model is very predatory and hurts kind of how people play games, right?
There's a good distinction there too. Like what were you saying before about where it began with DLCs and then it
it began even prior to DLCs. Like my earliest memory of this, the biggest letdown I ever had, The Sims. I was expecting The Sims Live in Large, and I had to go and spend another $40 to go and get my
I will never live small!
What the hell? Like, I was pissed.
Yeah.
And that's EA too. That's EA too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
coming together.
The dots.
Coming together.
We've got a whole map of like
Yeah.
EA games, and we're tying it all together with little red yarn, and like
It's always
mine.
We're gonna
It's
kill them.
always-
Is that what that is?
it's all a sign.
So this started when you didn't get a full game, but I guess in EA they were able to commodify, or with The Sims, it seemed to be able to be commodified because it was the idea that they were like always building and
Yeah.
bringing in new things, right? This is not even like they're bringing in new things anymore. It's just literally the stuff is here. Let's make the system only work if we get you addicted to the thrill of gambling.
Well, it's almost like, let's make this game, and then let's take these parts out and have people pay for them. I mean, even
Don't even pay for them. Pay for the chance to get them.
yeah,
and the
chance
parts
to
you
get
know, like Darth Vader, like these key players, you know people are going to pay for them. It's
Yeah.
not like, oh, you want Darth Vader to have a pink cape, which would be awesome.
Oh my God,
Like,
I don't know.
that
I
could
might
be
have
a
to spend that money.
Yeah, yeah.
Steampunk
it's-
Vader, I'm telling you.
yeah,
Ooh.
it's
Steampunk Vader.
well, there you go. Yeah, it's the Javik situation.
yeah.
Like that's what it
Where
is.
they're actually taking away the function of the game for this
Yeah.
purpose. And
Breaks
gamers have
it
said-
breaks their own game.
Yeah, and gamers have said this, enough is enough. People are getting upset. The other part of that is not only that Battlefront 2 is predatory, but that it is our fault. So I've danced around this a little bit. Zach, why don't you join me with this step? What do I mean by Battlefront 2?
Well, this will be our cross to bear. Yeah.
Listen, people already hate us, so why is it our fault?
Well, it's our fault because if you look at just look at the first Battlefront to the second Battlefront. The second Battlefront is a game that emerges out of the hateful response to the first one. Or if you want more environments, you want a single player. So we have those tacked on into this game, just kind of giving us what we yell and scream about, as opposed to actually servicing any unique vision. So when producers of games see gamers in this way, they're just going to be catering to our base desires, like getting that dopamine rush of, oh, you want to play as Vader? Okay, we'll give you like 8,000 levels of Darth Vader, as opposed to actually risking anything to actually tell a unique story. So it creates kind of the lowest form of entertainment that's just kind of capitalizing on our nostalgia and like affinity for these characters that have been part of our childhoods. And if that's all we clamor about as nerds, and that's all we're going to get is kind of like complete like nostalgic dross that just keeps mining our childhood until the figures that we looked up to are, ring completely hollow and become just a dollar
Darth Vader
sign
condoms
for corporate entities. Yeah, exactly. Well, it's kind of like,
it's kind of like that.
just what can we stick this on?
Force is strong.
Yeah.
I said it. I said it.
That's
Yeah,
it.
there we
That's
go.
it.
Said it.
So you think it's primarily with the nostalgia factor?
Yeah, and just this kind of like base demand again that our lives are so shitty in late capitalism that we just want our little things like Szechuan sauce and to play as Darth Vader in a video game, and so we
took that
and
away!
they took it away, and it's just giving us base things that scratch that itch without actually pushing us any new direction.
What about you, Tori? What do you think about the fact that it's this our thesis, our take? You said no very loudly at the beginning.
Nay.
Nay. So where is your nay lie? Oh, that doesn't sound right. What do you think? What do you think?
Okay. Now watch me, nay.
All right. She's not doing it.
She's not doing it at all. It's not our fault, you guys. But no, the idea of microtransactions, being someone who comes from the indie world in theater and in gaming, microtransactions are something that I've found have come out of young, up-and-coming brands that are still trying to establish themselves, and this is one of the ways that they can get you more invested emotionally and financially. And
To make you feel like you're kind of a part of it, right?
yeah, it makes you feel like you're a part of making that brand happen. It also makes you feel like you're a part of not just the story, but like you're helping funding specific chapters.
Mm-hmm.
And that for me is like, yeah, good for the little guy. The problem is that the big guy has come in and just bastardized that into a really, really terrible way. So I would not say that it's our fault. I would say it is our doing, but it's not our fault. No way. This is not a terrible thing. Like any
What's not
idea.
a terrible thing? What's not terrible?
The idea,
Microtransactions?
No.
The anger.
The anger that's coming out, the idea of doing like DLC
Expanding on the story and making, continued work. The idea that you work, a lot of these games are a lot of money and you spend years and years. I think with the figures we had over 200 million for Battlefront 2.
For the budget,
Yeah, it was something, a lot of that is marketing, like you said, which is not, you're not getting your money's worth, by the way, EA. Like, you might as send some that way. We'll say some nice things. We can very easily be bought. But it's the idea that you're expanding the life of art beyond the maybe 5-month cycle before it depreciates in value, right? Is that kind of what you're...
You look at Little Nightmares, and that's a great game that is living off of some really great DLCs right now, and the artwork on that is beautiful. The gameplay, I haven't actually played it yet myself, but I'm researching the hell out of it because I just really love it.
But that's nothing predatory, right?
No,
like, that's
there's
the
nothing
key.
predatory in that. That's supportive and awesome, and I want to know what those backstories are, and it doesn't
the revolution
hinder
has
my
been bought.
ability to win.
That's basically what we're trying to say. Like, the revolution has been bought. The way that we're supposed to experience new art has been purchased by corporate entities that are now kind of destroying us with it. Callie, we've talked a little bit, we've danced around it. Your experience of microtransactions is a little bit different than others. What is your take on the thesis that Battlefront 2 is very predatory and that simply it is our fault?
I mean, it totally is. We've been asking for this for a while. Well, not really asking for it, but we've been buying into it. I mean, I actually have never spent money on microtransactions. I know that I said it. I'm
golly.
Me neither.
For microtransactions and everything. I've never spent money on them because I don't feel like I need to, but I know that people like to, and I think that that's fine if it helps with the games, and especially indie games and stuff, if you're adding more story or, looking cool. But, EA knows that this is what people are going to spend their money on because people have spent their money on it, right? People are willing to be like, oh, let's, pay a couple bucks for those resources, or,
even like the Star Wars movie is, not that good, but it's going to make $1 billion. Like, it's proven.
It needs to make $1 billion.
Which part of the problem?
Or else it won't work out. So it's, but isn't that kind of our fault though? Really?
Oh, it totally is.
But we may as well say that it's our fault for just creating video games in the first place.
Absolutely.
Oh my God.
But I think it's different than allowing this medium to flourish versus getting really excited about things that we should not get really excited about. So it's the almost the corporate, the nerd culture, the gamer cultures. Gamers are very, very passionate. They want to seem like the other. So they want to be very passionate about the works that are coming in. People they have tattoos for every sort of AAA game that's about to come out. Maybe we should have a little more scrutiny for these sort of things that are coming out so that video game publishers and developers don't have a direct line to our wallet so much.
And maybe realizing that if you keep going back to the well of your childhood and the stories you liked in your childhood, that well is going to dry up, and it's not really going to offer you what you need. And you can become just like a screaming maniac.
That's why you can't have Mario Odyssey every single year, right? You need to take your time.
I would be fine.
No, but I mean, they wouldn't be able to make it because it's new, it's inventive, it does something different.
I mean, that's a reason why I'm a really big fan of Nintendo, is that they always work on trying to, when they make like a new game, it's innovative. They don't want to do the same thing. They want to do something different.
But was Mario Run really innovative?
Everybody's got to pay the bills, Tori. Come on.
This is a pro Mario household. How dare you? Yeah.
No, I think
pro Mario.
She brings up a good point. That's an example of kind of them saying, hey, let's slap on a little flapper game with the Mario face because we know it'll bring $1 trillion.
And this might work too because apparently like the pre-orders have been rescinded and stuff like throughout this whole
some pre-orders have gone down.
Yeah, and so we might actually like turn the tide if that's possible.
Well, here I don't think
be
it
nice.
Is. That's the whole point. I think we're so far gone that it's not about, like, we're talking to one of our cameramen, Evan, that's a big proponent of this, that really liked the idea, and who's editing this, so you might make it look silly now. They really like the idea that this is important. They're really on this side of the angry masses because they're being taken advantage of. And it's under the auspices that this will tell other developers and publishers that they can't do this. I don't think that's true. I think this just tells other publishers and developers to make sure you do this a little bit quieter.
Because they do it, and that's true. They do it in other games anyway.
This is our core. This is the way that almost every major studio says they have to make money now. So this is a sad, depressing terrible state of affairs.
They probably should tell you that something's wrong in your production.
Yeah.
Like, and how you actually make the
Well,
thing.
I think it's also how AAA games are made and,
Yeah.
just the poisonousness of this environment and how top heavy these things are. Video games have a big kind of air mark of pain around them in a lot of ways. You think about the subjugation of how women are treated in the video game culture.
The labor crunch.
The labor
Yeah,
crunch where
yeah.
people lose their friggin' lives to make you have fun. And then imagine that's the other thing we should think about. The developers that are making this game right now that have nothing to do with these sort of loot box choices.
Yeah.
It's got to be disheartening.
Well, there's no developer that doesn't want to make like the 100-hour story or, like the free, there's no developers like, I really want people to pay for Darth Vader.
No.
Like that's not,
No.
This is structural capitalism and exploitation of
on
consumers.
On the AMA too, one of the designers was on there, and
Oh, interesting.
I couldn't. My heart was just breaking imagining him going through all of these questions and being like, I worked so hard on that. And I spent so much time just making sure that the cape flowed like this.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
Wish that the water worked.
He should join us when we overthrow the corporate masters. Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
So
labor, it's all dirty.
We're dealing a lot with the depressing realization of what late capitalism brings to our societies. It's affecting the way we live our life, and now it's affecting our motherfucking Star Wars. We talked before, and we thought, this is a sad thing to end. Maybe just say everything's fucked. What do we do next? Instead, we put our heads together and made a list. Sweet baby boy Andy's dope list for sick games. TM. So these are 5 rules that we've all kind of agreed are the things that you should always consider before you purchase a game. The video game industry is going in a direction that we don't like. Try to be a smart consumer and a participant in this medium so that you get the things that matter to you. So number 1, I think we all have agreed on this in no particular order, but number 1, who is the publisher and developer and what's their track record? Someone like EA, you understand that this has happened before. As early back as The Sims, right, Tori?
Oh,
This
yeah.
is something that they implement in their
Live
business
in
model.
large.
I want to live.
I want to live large. My
wanna
life
live
is hell.
large.
Yeah.
I want to live large somewhere. Yeah.
Damn it.
Yeah, those like vampire expansions and
Yeah.
yeah.
Try to know
Yeah.
who the developers
Late
are
party.
too. It's not, thank you, Kelly. It's not just the publishers in those way, because I think understanding who the developer is will really affect that kind of air mark of excellence. Before,
And like what their production habits are. Like Obsidian, right? Obsidian
Yeah.
Games is going to tell you something a lot different than an EA game, right? And you can know
importantly,
that.
it'll
Yeah.
be very different. Number 2, no particular order. Am I going to have to spend money? Very simple. You always have to spend money to purchase the game. Will there ever be opportunities where I have to spend more? Will it be a simple DLC where I get access to a whole new area of the game? We think of Horizon Zero Dawn that just had a new DLC. We think it was $20. It
And
gave
maybe
me
that
like 20
question too.
hours.
Will I want to spend more money
Yeah.
if like DLC comes out, right?
Yes.
Yeah. No, but, it's
also
important.
the can you spend more money? And
Horizon,
will you?
like I did. I was like, this was
Yeah.
so great. I would love to get an additional pack on that.
And that'll be telling you whether or not you want to spend money on microtransactions. If you know going in that parts of the game require you to spend money in some way, that should be a big red flag. Number 3, and I think this is one that a lot of people don't ask, is this an experience worth having? A lot of times, I don't know about you guys, I'll like if the new Mass Effect is coming out or any other franchise that I do like, I just want to play this new game. I want to try it out. I don't really consider what is this game offering? Does it really have something that I'm going to enjoy? And this ties into your rule number 4. Will I return to play this game one more time? So that has to be important when you're putting $90 into a game. It doesn't have to be a game that has different endings, but I think it also has to be a game that maybe you could just play maybe differently.
Well, I think it's also different too because there are games that are meant to be played over and over again, like Call of Duty.
Yeah.
Or Nier
But
Automata.
then there's a game,
Very different.
There are games like indie story games that are maybe like 3-4 hours and you finish it and you don't really need to play it again because the experience is worth having.
Yeah. But you could see it could be like part of your library. I'll go back and read that book again. I'll go back and play Last of Us again, right? I'll play Hellblade again, right? Like
We were just talking about Mario Party. I will totally go back and play the first Mario Party.
What's meant to be
again.
played? It's meant to be played again and again. And a lot of people will look at an experience and say, is this worth my money? And I think the final one that maybe not a lot of people ask, does this game actually have something to say. Now, what do we mean by that exactly?
It means, does it have like an actual theme it's pursuing, and does it have something that it wants to show the player other than cool guns to shoot other players with? Like fundamentally, what is it going to try to show me?
Yeah,
right.
And that could be narratively.
Right.
That could be through mechanics as well. Like to show. I think Mario Odyssey is a great example. This is a game that has something to say about this new implementation of the hat. How it can make a whole game about a simple little gesture that's brilliant and nuanced.
Just
in that
build
way.
around the mechanic.
Yeah. So I don't think
art.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, art as well. Like, does the art itself have something to say? Does it tell a story? I think those are all important.
Sound design,
Sure.
dictating mood
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah.
When things are the most dramatic thing in the world, and when it's doesn't matter at all, and they don't want you to focus on that. Like,
And cohesion too. Like, do all of those disparate elements like actually cohere to give us a singular like vision, right? Or are they all just all doing their own thing? That's really probably the hardest thing to do in a game.
Well, yeah, that is almost like the key to making games.
Yeah.
Well,
bring it all together.
even especially in AAA games, you kind of get games sometimes where you get that feeling. You get a
Yeah.
feeling that it was like, oh, this was passed on through 3 developers,
Yeah.
like Dark Souls 3. You know, it went through so many hands that you're kind of at the end like, what did this
Ooh,
game really do?
Watch out. Shout out to Dark Souls 3 right off the hitting in the face. She had no idea. So ultimately, I think we do have a bit of disparate opinions here, but Battlefront 2 unfortunately seems to be a predatory product that's indicative of a predatory landscape, and we have caused it to get this way. Please use our list. What's it called again, Zach?
Sweet Baby Boy Andy's dope list for sick games. TM.
Yeah, make sure you add the
TM
there.
and the more TMs.
Yeah, I don't think a game has to hit all those factors, but I think it has to have at least a majority for you to be willing to spend your $90.
Don't treat games like Candy Crush. You know, like that's like, come on.
You wanna think about it, especially if you're going to put money in it. You want to think about it. Who's getting that money?
Yeah.
That's a good point. Who's getting that money? Is it worth it? And will they keep making things that are worth it? Big thanks again to my whole panel here as we go off with the Pokemon Bicycle theme. Callie, Zach, and Tori, hope to have you guys on again very, very soon. And what do you guys think? Do you believe that Battlefront 2 is predatory in this way and it's your fault? I'll be very surprised if you do. Maynard Borkowski for Dialogue Wheel.